Mortal Kombat has some of the most depraved villains in gaming history. Sorcerers who eat souls for breakfast, gods who erase entire timelines because they felt like it, and one bug lady who has personally ruined every alliance she's ever been part of. Today, I'm breaking down the 10 most evil characters in the entire franchise, ranked from bad to absolutely unforgivable. And we're starting with a killer who sparked a war that's still going. 10. Bi-Han. Here's the thing about Bi-Han. Everyone wants to have the nature versus nurture debate with this guy, and both sides have a point. He was raised inside the Lin Kuei from childhood, not recruited, conditioned. Murder wasn't something he learned to justify later in life. It was his first language, and if that were the whole story, you could almost write him off as a weapon pointed by someone else's hand. Case closed. But then Quan Chi massacred the Shirai Ryu and pinned the whole thing on Bi-Han. That deception created Scorpion. Hanzo Hasashi came back as a specter fueled by pure rage, and the blood feud between the Lin Kuei and Shirai Ryu spiraled into a multi-generational war that consumed countless lives. Bi-Han didn't exactly rush to his innocence. He leaned into the rivalry, fought Scorpion with zero hesitation, and carried himself like a man who genuinely did not care whether the accusation was true or not. That tells you everything, and here's where the nurture argument falls apart. When Bi-Han died and was reborn as Noob Saibot, he didn't suddenly become evil. He just kept going. No clan structure, no handlers, no orders. Just pure, unfiltered darkness operating on its own. The Lin Kuei didn't install that, they just gave it permission to exist. He ranks at 10 because his evil has a ceiling. He's a killer, not an architect, but the way he embraced that feud instead of ever setting the record straight proves something important. Bi-Han wasn't just following orders. He was exactly where he wanted to be. But if you think an indoctrinated assassin is bad, wait until you meet someone who betrays entire realms purely by choice. 9. Tanya. Most characters on this list have an excuse. A curse, a corrupted soul, some ancient god whispering in their ear telling them to do horrible things. Tanya has none of that. She's just a terrible person. The daughter of an Edenian ambassador, Tanya had every advantage you could ask for. Connections, status, a realm worth fighting for. She looked at her own people, her own realm, and her own allies, and decided they were all negotiable every single time. Across multiple timelines, multiple continuities, the woman makes the exact same choice. Sell everyone out, climb the ladder, survive. It's almost impressive in its consistency. Here's the thing. Tanya didn't just pick the wrong side once in a moment of weakness. She actively collaborated with Shao Kahn, the guy who conquered and enslaved her entire realm. She worked alongside Devora, who, as we'll get to later, is basically a walking war crime with mandibles. She facilitated invasions that displaced thousands of Edenian citizens and left entire regions defenseless against forces that wanted to grind them into dust. And she did all of it with a smile because it meant she'd still be breathing at the end. Now, some fans will argue her circumstances deserve consideration. She was an Edenian caught between collapsing realms with limited options, and sure, that's technically true, but there's a pretty wide gap between making hard choices to survive and enthusiastically handing your civilization to a tyrant because he offered you a seat at the table. Tanya doesn't betray people reluctantly. She plays the game. She enjoys the game. She's the politician of the Mortal Kombat roster, and that might be the most realistic kind of evil on this entire list. No cosmic corruption, no tragic programming, no supernatural compulsion. Just a woman who looked at loyalty, decency, and the lives of thousands, and decided none of it was worth more than her own skin, which is, not ideal. But if you think a self-serving traitor is bad, wait until you meet someone who turned military power into a personal religion. 8. Reiko. Most of the characters on this list have some kind of supernatural edge. Soul magic, necromancy, god-tier powers, something that puts them firmly in the realm of fantasy. Reiko doesn't have any of that. He's just a general, and that's exactly what makes him uncomfortable to think about. As one of Shao Kahn's highest-ranking military commanders, Reiko was the guy in the tent with the maps. He planned the invasions. He coordinated the sieges. He signed off on the systematic destruction of cities, civilian infrastructure, and entire resistance populations across multiple realms. Not because he was cursed, not because some elder god whispered in his ear, but because it was his job and he was extremely good at it. Here's the thing about Reiko. Every theatrical villain on this list has a moment where you go, well, that's a fictional nightmare creature doing fictional nightmare things. Reiko doesn't give you that comfort. His evil is operational, bureaucratic. He's the commander who looks at a map, draws a line through a populated city, and moves on to the next objective. Thousands of soldiers and civilians dead, and it's just Tuesday's briefing. His motivations are a cocktail of fanatical loyalty to Shao Kahn, genuine devotion to authoritarian power structures, and good old-fashioned career advancement. He didn't need to be corrupted. He showed up already sharpened and asked where to point himself, which is, not ideal, and that's the unsettling part. Being a tool of greater evil doesn't exactly absolve you when you're enthusiastically volunteering for every atrocity on the schedule. Reiko bears operational responsibility for organized mass murder on a scale that goes way beyond any single assassination or one-on-one kill. He's the war criminal of this list. No flashy sorcery, no soul-stealing theatrics. Just methodical military genocide carried out with a salute and a clean uniform. But if Reiko represents the cold, calculated side of evil, our next entry is pure unhinged chaos, given teeth and a genetic identity crisis. 7. Melina. Here's where the list starts to get uncomfortable. Because Melina might be the one character on this ranking who makes you feel genuinely bad about agreeing she belongs here, and she does belong here. But let me explain why that's complicated. Melina wasn't born, she was built. Shao Kahn ordered Shang Tsung to create her using Kitana's genetic template fused with Tarkatan biology, essentially manufacturing a weapon shaped like a woman. From the moment she existed, she was programmed for violence and aggression. Not trained, programmed. Her entire identity was constructed around being a more controllable, more vicious version of someone else. She was a copy made to replace the original, and the original wanted nothing to do with her. And the emperor who commissioned her treated her like a disposable tool the second she stopped being useful. So yeah, tragic. Genuinely, deeply tragic. Nobody asked to be created as a murder instrument and then thrown away by their own father figure. But here's the thing. The body count doesn't care about your backstory. Melina has racked up a staggering number of kills across the franchise's timelines. Between personal combat and the military campaigns she's commanded, the devastation she's responsible for is massive. Her rap sheet includes assassinations of allies and enemies alike, the invasion and occupation of Outworld's throne, leading armies into conquest across realms, and enthusiastically participating in campaigns of mass violence. She didn't just follow orders, she led armies, she conquered territory, she betrayed people who trusted her and killed them for the inconvenience of existing in her way. The community is genuinely split on this one. Some fans argue her origin makes her a victim first and a villain second, that you can't hold someone fully accountable when they were literally engineered to be violent. Others point out that plenty of characters in this franchise got dealt horrible hands and didn't respond by seizing thrones and stacking bodies. Sympathy and accountability aren't mutually exclusive. The ranking's answer is simple. A tragic origin doesn't erase deliberate atrocity. You can feel sorry for how she got here and still acknowledge what she chose to do once she arrived. But if Melina makes you uncomfortable because of how blurry the line between victim and monster gets, wait until you meet someone with zero ambiguity. D'Vorah doesn't have a sad backstory, she just has a kill list. 6. D'Vorah. D'Vorah doesn't hate you. She doesn't even think about you. And honestly, that might be the most terrifying thing about her. Most villains on this list have some kind of emotional investment in the suffering they cause. Rage, ambition, vengeance, something recognizably human driving the body count. D'Vorah has none of that. She's a chitin, a composite insectoid organism that functions as the voice of an entire hive species. And to the chitin, every other living thing in every realm is exactly one thing: competition. You're not an enemy. You're not even prey. You're a pest problem, and D'Vorah is the exterminator. Her resume is genuinely staggering. She assassinated multiple realm leaders, facilitated full-scale chitin invasions of both Earthrealm and Outworld, and served under Shao Kahn and Kronika, while secretly advancing her own species supremacy agenda the entire time. Every alliance she ever formed was a temporary arrangement she fully intended to betray the moment it stopped being useful. Entire military units got wiped out because D'Vorah deliberately left them exposed, feeding them to the slaughter so her real plans could move forward. When you factor in her biological attacks, her coordinated campaigns, and her personal kills, the body count climbs into the thousands. But here's what makes her arguably more disturbing than half the characters ranked above her. There's no grand cosmic justification, no ancient grudge, no corrupted soul, or tragic backstory. D'Vorah simply believes that chitin survival requires the elimination of rival species, and she pursues that goal with the emotional engagement of someone pulling weeds. Genocide framed as pest control, a practical, scientific approach to wiping out entire civilizations, which is, not ideal. The community actually debates this one pretty hard. Some fans argue that species loyalty evil should rank differently than personal evil, that D'Vorah is basically an ant colony with a military budget and shouldn't be judged by human moral standards. Others point out that she demonstrates clear individual agency in every betrayal, every assassination, every calculated decision to let thousands die. She's not mindlessly following instinct. She's choosing this. She just doesn't feel bad about it. And zero remorse from a being that smart? That's a special kind of cold. But if D'Vorah treats genocide like a chore, the next entry turned it into an empire. 5. Shao Kahn. Everyone knows Shao Kahn. He's the big guy with the hammer, the skull helmet, and the voice line that's been making players throw controllers since the early 90s. But here's the thing about Shao Kahn that people tend to gloss over because they're too busy remembering how annoying he is as a boss fight. This man ran an interdimensional empire of suffering for centuries, not years, not decades, centuries. As Emperor of Outworld, Shao Kahn didn't just conquer territory. He built an entire system designed to crush everything beneath it. Free cities? Destroyed. Political rivals? Executed. His own family members who stepped out of line? Also executed. Disloyal populations? Purged. He bred combat creatures like livestock, enslaved entire civilizations to fuel his war machine, and then pointed that machine at the next realm over and did it all again. It's imperialism, but cranked to a scale where the colonies are literal dimensions, and his big play, the attempted conquest of Earthrealm, would have put every single human life under his boot. Everyone. That's not a war, that's a species-wide enslavement. The body count across all his campaigns is functionally unknowable, because when you're merging entire realms and stealing the souls of their populations, you stop counting in numbers and start counting in civilizations. The environmental devastation alone from prolonged military occupation across multiple realms is incalculable. Entire ecosystems just gone because Shao Kahn wanted a bigger throne room. But here's where it gets interesting. Shao Kahn's evil isn't complicated. Sure, he can steal souls and has enough raw power to force entire realms into submission, but there's no cosmic corruption pulling his strings, no eldritch force bending his will. He's just a dictator, a really, really effective dictator who happens to have a magic hammer, soul-stealing abilities, and access to interdimensional portals. His evil makes sense. You can look at human history and find a dozen rulers who would have done exactly what Shao Kahn did if they'd had the power. He's Alexander the Great if Alexander never died, and also could punch through walls. That's exactly why he sits at number 5. The sheer scale and duration of his crimes are staggering. Centuries of sustained, systematic oppression affecting countless lives across multiple realms. But his evil is comprehensible. It follows a logic you can map onto a textbook. And the characters above him, their evil doesn't follow any logic at all. Speaking of which, if Shao Kahn represents evil you can understand, Quan Chi represents the kind that makes your skin crawl for reasons you can't quite articulate. 4. Quan Chi. Up until now, every character on this list has been evil in ways you can wrap your head around. Conquerors, betrayers, killers. Horrible, sure, but at least when they killed you, you gotta die. Quan Chi doesn't give you that luxury. He's a necromancer, and not the fun fantasy kind who raises a couple of skeletons to do his bidding. Quan Chi mastered the art of ripping souls from the dead, binding their consciousness into servitude, and forcing them to fight as his personal undead army. Your body dies, your mind doesn't. You're trapped in there, fully aware, serving the guy who murdered you forever, which is, not ideal. But here's where it gets truly dark. His scheming isn't brute force battlefield conquest, it's manipulation layered on manipulation. He hired Sub-Zero to infiltrate a Shaolin temple and steal a sacred map, tricking one of the deadliest assassins alive into doing his dirty work so he could get his hands on Shinnok's amulet. He didn't need to swing a single punch. He just pointed a weapon at a target and let someone else pull the trigger, and the manipulation is really just step one. That's the thing people miss about Quan Chi. The scheming gets him what he wants short term, but the long game is always about souls. He orchestrated the downfall of Scorpion's entire Shirai Ryu clan and his family, then resurrected Scorpion as a rage-fueled specter bound to his will. He turned Earth's greatest defenders into revenants after the events of Mortal Kombat 9, enslaving the very heroes who died fighting to save the realms. These aren't people who died and moved on. These are people who died and then had their existence rewritten into an eternity of forced servitude. This is where the ranking shifts from characters who do evil things to characters who are something evil. Every villain before this point operated within the rules of life and death. You live, you fight, you lose, you die. Quan Chi broke that contract entirely. He turned death itself into a recruitment tool. Hey, good news. The war's over and you're dead. Bad news, you're still fighting it. For him, forever. The most insidious part is how methodical he is about all of it. There's no rage, no bloodlust, no conquest fever, just cold, surgical calculation. Every betrayal serves a purpose. Every soul harvested feeds the next scheme. He's not a warlord swinging a hammer. He's an architect building an empire out of stolen consciousness. But if Quan Chi's evil is defined by what he does to you after you die, the next character on this list perfected the art of destroying you while you're still alive. 3. Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung is the guy who builds the mousetrap, paints it gold, puts a little sign on it that says honor, and then watches you walk right in. He's been doing this for centuries, literally centuries, and somehow, warriors keep falling for it. Here's the thing about Shang Tsung that separates him from every other villain on this list. Most evil characters in Mortal Kombat will look you in the eye and try to kill you. You know the deal. You see Shao Kahn's army marching toward your city. You understand what's happening. Quan Chi raises the dead and sends them after you. The situation is pretty clear. But Shang Tsung, he sends you an invitation. He tells you there's a tournament. He tells you it's about honor, about proving yourself, about defending your realm. And you show up voluntarily. You walk through the front door thinking you're a hero, and he's already sharpening the knife. The Mortal Kombat tournaments were never competitions. They were harvesting operations. Shang Tsung organized them specifically to lure the strongest warriors from across the realms into a controlled environment where he could systematically consume their souls one by one. Every fight, every round, every elimination was just another meal. The warriors thought they were fighting for glory. They were fighting to become fuel, and that brings us to the part that makes Shang Tsung genuinely terrifying. Soul theft isn't murder. Murder ends your life. Soul theft ends your existence. When Shang Tsung consumes a soul, that person doesn't die and move on to some afterlife or get reborn or haunt a nice castle somewhere. They're gone. Completely. Permanently. Every trace of who they were gets absorbed into his body and used to keep him alive for another few decades. It's not death, it's spiritual annihilation. The complete negation of everything you ever were or could have been. He's been doing this across centuries of predation. Entire generations of warriors walked into his tournaments and simply stopped existing. Whole populations were displaced and destroyed through the realm-wide catastrophes he helped orchestrate and the military campaigns he coordinated on behalf of his masters. The body count isn't even calculable at this point because so many of his victims were erased so thoroughly that nobody remembers they existed in the first place, which is, not ideal. What elevates him above Quan Chi is that extra layer of cruelty baked into his method. Quan Chi's victims at least know they're being attacked. They see the necromancer coming. They understand the threat. Shang Tsung's victims think they're doing something noble right up until the moment their soul gets ripped out of their body and devoured. He doesn't just destroy people, he tricks them into feeling proud about walking into their own annihilation. That's a special kind of evil that takes genuine craftsmanship. But if a sorcerer who eats souls for breakfast sounds bad, wait until you meet the fallen elder god who tried to unmake reality itself. 2. Shinnok. Every character below this point on the list is evil on a scale you can wrap your head around. Conquerors, sorcerers, manipulators, killers, terrible people doing terrible things to other people. Shinnok is where the list stops being about people entirely. He's not a mortal who got corrupted by power. He's an elder god, one of the beings who helped build reality itself, and he looked at everything he helped create and decided to burn it all down. This is a cosmic entity with the power to shape dimensions and rewrite the laws of existence. Maintaining the balance of every realm was literally his purpose, and he chose, with full understanding of what it would mean, to betray the entire cosmic order and pursue the corruption and domination of all realms across dimensional space. Here's where the distinction matters. Shao Kahn wants to conquer Earthrealm. Shang Tsung wants to steal your soul. Quan Chi wants to enslave the dead. Horrifying goals, sure, but they exist within reality. Shinnok's ambitions threaten reality itself. His schemes involved corrupting multiple dimensions simultaneously. Using dark magic so fundamental, it doesn't just kill people, it reshapes the metaphysical principles that allow realms to exist in the first place. He wasn't trying to take over a kingdom, he was trying to break the architecture of everything. His crimes read like a checklist written by someone speed-running cosmic treason, corruption of multiple dimensions, attempted enslavement or destruction of all mortal realms, systematic elimination of rival divine entities, meaning he was actively trying to murder other gods so nobody could stop him. And dark magic so advanced, it operates on mechanisms that transcend typical sorcery entirely. He's not casting fireballs. He's rewriting the rules that fireballs exist under. Now, here's the tension. Most of his schemes were thwarted. He got beaten, locked away, humiliated. Johnny Cage punched him in the face once, which is, not great for your cosmic credibility. So you could argue his actual accomplished evil falls short of characters who successfully carried out their plans, but a failed apocalypse still ranks above a successful genocide. If any single one of his schemes had worked, we're talking about the permanent destruction of multiple realities inhabited by billions of beings, not one realm. Billions of lives across dimensional space, erased because a god got bored of being good. The fact that he failed doesn't reduce the evil of the attempt. It just means the universe got lucky. And as an elder god, the knowledge alone makes him uniquely dangerous. Quan Chi spent centuries mastering necromancy. Shinnok could rewrite the dimensional framework that necromancy operates within. That's not a difference of degree, that's a difference of kind. But even a fallen god has to answer to someone. And the entity sitting at number 1 doesn't just threaten the structure of existence. She built it. 1. Kronika. Every single character on this list is evil. That's the whole point. But here's the thing about every single one of them. Shao Kahn, Shang Tsung, Shinnok, all of them. They're characters inside a story. Kronika wrote the story, then she rewrote it. Then she erased entire drafts with billions of people still in them, and started over because she didn't like how the plot was going. That's not villainy. That's something else entirely. Kronika is the keeper of time, not a sorcerer who learned time magic, not a warrior who sees temporal power. She is a titan, a being above the elder gods, literally the mother of both Shinnok and Cetrion. She is the fundamental cosmic force governing how time works across every reality in Mortal Kombat. She designed the timelines, she built them, and when the results didn't match her vision, she didn't adjust. She deleted everything and started from scratch. Billions of conscious beings across entire realities, gone, not killed, erased, as if they never existed at all. Let me put that in perspective. Shao Kahn conquered realms. Kronika built the realms, watched Shao Kahn conquer them, decided that was part of her plan, and when it stopped being useful, she unmade the whole thing. Every war on this list, every betrayal, every soul stolen, all of it happened because Kronika allowed it inside timelines she controlled. She deliberately manipulated individual lives and entire civilizations to produce suffering and chaos. Not because she enjoyed it, but because suffering was a useful variable in her equation. Her body count is functionally infinite. That's not hyperbole. When you erase a timeline, you erase every person who ever lived in it, every child born, every warrior who fought for something they believed in, all reduced to nothing. And Kronika treated these total annihilations as minor adjustments. Cosmic housekeeping, which is, not ideal. But the new era is what pushes her past every other name on this list. Kronika wanted to implement a new reality where free will simply didn't exist. Every conscious being across every dimension would function exactly as she designed them to. No choices, no resistance, no autonomy. She didn't want to rule reality. She wanted to be reality. Every living thing reduced to a component in her machine, thinking exactly what she allowed it to think. That's what makes her number 1. Shinnah wanted to dominate. Shang Tsung wanted to consume. Shao Kahn wanted to conquer. Kronika wanted to eliminate the very concept of wanting. She looked at every being across every dimension and saw chess pieces to be created, manipulated, or discarded according to her design, with zero regard for whether any of them could think, feel, or suffer. Just the complete, absolute denial that other beings have value at all. Every other villain on this list did terrible things to people. Kronika decided people weren't real to begin with. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.